And we're back for another GHH session. I'm Rob J10X, and we have our expert attorney here, Daryl Austin in the building. How you feeling, man?
I'm well, thank you.
Hey, man, good to see you, man.
Good to be seen.
How surprised were you when, at the speed of the verdict and also at the verdict, getting pretty much all three guilty charges?
I wasn't too surprised at the deliberation period when you say the speed of you're talking about the deliberation period. I was actually more shocked with the swiftness of getting to trial.
Okay.
We got to remember that was like June was George Floyd's death, early June, late May.
I think May 25th, if I believe.
Right. So it was end of May, and here we are in the middle of April, having a verdict. And the trial started at the end of March.
Wow, I didn't even think about that.
So that's a speedy trial for a second prosecution to get all the facts and all the evidence, get all their witnesses together, and put together a pretty successful prosecution.
Do you think people looking at the trial from a pro Chauvin point of view, or some of those
pro defense,
that segment, who may say that the trial had things such as, Maxine Waters, a sitting congressman, calling publicly for a guilty verdict, and a $27 million settlement awarded in the middle of the trial, and the judge not doing, I don't know the legal term, but when you re-explain to the jury or something changing. Do you think those things have given grounds for a potential successful appeal for his defense?
I don't know about a successful appeal, but it certainly gives you grounds to make, your appeal. He's going to appeal. He's going to appeal the conviction, probably will appeal the sentence as well. We don't know what the sentence will be, but they'll probably list all those things. I'm not so sure Maxine Waters is anything to think about in terms of a meritorious appeal. It's usually what is on the record. And it's usually did the judge make some kind of an error that was prejudicial to the defendant? I think they probably will appeal, their strongest appeal will be that first count, the second degree murder. I think if you're a pro Chauvin or Chauvin, whatever his name is, you're questioning, was there really a felonious intent to injure George Floyd? If you're a cop, you would say, no, he was just trying to arrest him. His knee on the neck may not have been a sanctioned move, but there was certainly no movement by him trying to hurt him, right? That's how I could see that argument being made.
Okay.
But those other two counts, we spoke about this. I thought as long as they had that third degree murder charge and a manslaughter, that would be a ticket to a conviction. I always felt that.
Okay. So you feel like this conviction is gonna stick past an appeal?
Oh, it's gonna hold up.
Okay.
It's going to hold up. Even if he loses even if he wins on one count, the other two will hold up.
Okay.
It's pretty clear that he caused the death. He along with the other three officers. And so that will be sustained. It's hard to overturn a jury verdict without something more like maybe jury misconduct or something like that.
Okay. Now, speaking on the sentencing, from what I was reading about different sentencing guidelines, typically somebody who has no criminal record and it's their first offense, usually the sentencing is somewhere in the middle of the amount of time that they could receive. Do you think his sentence, being the fact that a police officer is a, quote unquote public servant, and he had no previous criminal record, do you think that will play to a leniency, or do you think now that he's been convicted or guilty that it is possible that he'll get the maximum amount of time?
I think it's possible he can get the max because of the public outrage. A man's life was taken. The jury spoke. The judge sat through the evidence. We also have precedent, maybe not in Minnesota. Well, actually in Minnesota, there was the other officer, I forgot how much time he got, but it was more than 10 years. For it was a black officer, but still he got more than 10 years. So there's a range. The top count in that case has a maximum penalty of 40 years. And so what you're saying is he should get maybe 20 years based statistically. I don't know that 20 years will be enough on this because it's still a murder at the end of the day, or it's a homicide. And it's going to be tough for a judge to justify giving a cop 20 years when other people that aren't cops get 20 years or more, probably more, and a cop has a higher standard.
Okay. Oh, that's a really good point. So how does this guilty verdict for him affect the other four police officers as far as their role in?
I think they understand that count 2, which is the third-degree murder, and the manslaughter are going to be pretty strong if the prosecution can put together the same kind of case, because as you know from the first episode, the ME report had all of their conduct contributing to the death.
Okay.
And so, yeah, they can blame Chauvin and say, his knee on the neck caused the death. But the medical examiner's report also blames them, their cause of action, or as a cause of action. So it's going to be tough for them to avoid liability outright because they contributed to his death.
If you were the legal counsel for them, would you be suggesting they just plea out or just?
Probably not. I would tell them, you're looking at worst case scenario, counts 1 through 3, just like Chauvin. You may be able to beat the top count, which saves you 40 years. Maybe they go to trial just to try to beat the top count. I don't think there's going to be a plea offer. Well, I haven't heard of any plea offers, obviously. That's not public record, where they can avoid count 1. Now, if they can plead to count 3, I would maybe let them know, you're saving time, right? There's a max, and you're only going to get but so much time. If you have all 3 counts and you lose, we talked about it, it was about 75 years. It was 40, 20, 25 or 40, 2015 or something like that.
I thought it was 40, 2015, but
Right. So if you can just plead to the manslaughter, you'd get 15 years. You're not going to do all 15 years. That would be a plea. That would be a pretty decent plea after watching this trial.
Wow.
But they're not the guys with the knee on the neck. Them sitting on their back is probably less egregious, viscerally and in the grand scheme of things. But they're cops at the end of the day. They don't want to just go down for something that they probably felt like they didn't do anything wrong.
And with this trial, I know that it's not the first time, a police killing has been recorded, but maybe the first time it's been documented in this way where the whole nation was viewing. And what I felt when I was watching the closing arguments was it was just hard as a human being to watch that video and come to, certain things you can't take out of your mind, so, but every case when it comes to, police, brutality or excessive use of force isn't going to have a videotape to that extent. Do you believe that this conviction, is something that ultimately is going to be a warning to all police moving forward, or do you think this is an outlier that just happened to have the perfect storm of evidence to get a conviction?
I don't know that it was the perfect storm of evidence, and I'm hoping it's not an outlier, but I will say what was different in this case was the prosecution, or the head prosecutor, was a black man. A lot of the cops that testified were older police officers that were black. And so there was, quote unquote, justice or accountability being served by a black prosecution that had to take it over from the original prosecutors. So I don't know if this one case will have the desired effect that what you're referring to, which is needed, like less policing, less violence by the police, more accountability on police officers. But the hope is that it will.
Okay. Definitely. Well, hey, man, throughout this process, as always, I've appreciated being able to lean on your expertise and insight and legal counsel, really bringing clarity to something that to the naked eye appeared to be very simple, but coming from you from the legal eye was very complex. So appreciate this session. Appreciate your your wise counsel just here and in life in general. And you'll be back, man, giving us more insight. And one thing about America is going to give you a court case to talk about.
Yeah,
man.
that's true.
So
there's plenty others that we still are waiting on. Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor. So those are still in the works.
Wow, man. You know what? I was wondering the other day, whatever happened to the lady who shot both and John? But anyway, hey, we'll catch up with y'all GHH Sessions.
If you're watching this on YouTube, man, hey, y'all, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. This is Gentleman's History Hour.